welcome to Milwaukee Music Lessons, and this is the final episode, at least for right now anyways, of the harmony series that I'm doing here for the month of September. And we're going to finish it off with another chord analysis, a little more in-depth this time around. I'm going to talk about some tips and tricks, things that you can do to try and make your chord analysis life a little bit easier. And so if you haven't watched the previous video, definitely go check that one out. But in this one, we're going to be breaking down some a little bit more advanced songs and what are some ways that you can quickly identify what the appropriate keys are and get a faster, quicker chord analysis. So let's get right into it here. We've got Take On Me by Aha, and this is a great one, honestly, for the analysis because there are a lot of chords inside of it, and it pretty much touches every one of the resolution ideas that we talked about previously. So, in the last video, I talked about how, you can go one by one through each of the major chords and work out a major scale to quickly, or to try and figure out what chords belong where, right? And that is definitely the tried and true method, right? Like no matter what, that method will work, but it can be a little bit of the long method. I definitely think you should check your work at the end to make sure that that works out, and we'll demonstrate that in a second here. But if you're quickly trying to get to the final answer, I think one way that you could do it is by simply identifying where there are common patterns with our major scale, right? So I mentioned in the previous video that we know that the 1, 4, and 5 chords are major, right? And that means that the 4 and 5 chords, you should have 2 major chords that are always next to each other. And so if we look here at Take On Me by Aha, we have in the first line here, we have 4 chords. We have B minor, E, A, and D, along with another E right here at the end. And so if you take just the major chords, get rid of this B minor here for a second, we have E, A, and D. Now, of those 3 chords, which 2 are next to each other? Like they're the closest to each other alphabetically, right? Like they're 1 letter's distance away. Well, the answer would be D and E. Those 2 chords are right next to each other. They're a whole step away, which is perfect. So that means that we can have a reasonable guess that this that D is 4, E is 5, and that leaves A as the 1 chord. And so if I do my due diligence here, and let's say that we let's make an A major scale. So A major would be A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and G sharp. There we go. Almost forgot the sharp there. It's running away on me. And then if I extrapolate upon that and I add the minors, the 2nd chord is always minor, 3rd chord is always minor, 4th and 5th are major, 6th is minor, and the 7th chord is diminished. And there you have it, your A major scale. And so if we look and we match things up, sure, B minor is there, E, D, A are there. Let's check out the rest of the song. We have F sharp minor down here. Yep, that also fits. Are there any new chords that we come across here later in the song? No, everything lines up. And so, you can use that correlation, that 4, 5 next to each other, to help determine what you think is going to be the right pattern. You could also do this if you wanted. Like we know that 2 and 3 are minor, so if you see 2 minor chords next to each other alphabetically, right? I don't mean like next to each other in the song, just because they're 1 measure next to each other. I mean just if you were to lay them out in a row alphabetically, where do they line up? If you see 2 minor chords, like a B minor and a C sharp minor, that's a pretty good indicator that one of them is 2 and the other one is 3. Or the other one that could make things fairly obvious is if you saw a diminished chord, right? If you see a diminished chord, even though they're very, very rare, that means that you're probably looking at a 7 chord there. And if it doesn't line up perfectly, then either one of two things is happening. Either you're not actually in minor, or you're also coming across some other shenanigans, because there are more things than just the major scale or the minor scale. And even if you are primarily in there, there are ways to kind of break the rules, which are things that we have not gone over yet and we will not cover in this video, because that is a whole pile of videos, something that could quite literally take you years to get the hang of, and that's outside of the scope of this video. But let's finish up with our chord analysis, because there's some things that we covered from last time that I really want to hit on again, and there's some things that I would also like to hit on in this video. So we start here with, making mistakes. We're starting here with a 2 minor to begin off in this song. So we have a 2 minor, again using Roman numerals. That is a terrible looking M, but you all know that this is secretly a 2 minor chord. Then we go to E would be a 5, A would be a 1, D is a 4, E is 5, and we can just kind of continue on through here. 2 minor, 5, 6 minor, 4 is on this one, and then we have 1, 5, 6, 6 minor, 4, and then finally to end it off here, 1, 5, 4, and 5. Okay, good. That covers everything in this song. So if you can overcome my terrible handwriting here with a mouse, we can now continue with the 5 chord analysis, right? So we talked about the types of resolutions. 5 to 1 is a resolve, 5 to 6 is a false resolve, and 5 to anything else is a non-resolve. And we'll get an example of all of those here. So this is a resolve because we have a 5 over to 1, so that resolves nicely. Here we have a repeat, so we go back to here, back to 2. So this would actually be a case of a non-resolve, so we put an X through it. And then we also go down here to this B minor as well. This is a non-resolve. And then we have a 5 to a 6. This is the first time we've encountered any one of these, and I'm already labeling it wrong. This would be a false resolve. So a false resolve we mark with a dotted arrow line instead, and that lets you know that this is a false resolution. Let's see here. Next 5 chord. We have another false resolution here, right? We have 5 to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Add these little dots in here. And now we get a false resolve arrow. And then finally here, we have a non-resolve down here. And if we were to repeat this back to the top, we would also have another non-resolve coming over back to the B minor up top. So yeah, I think that's just about covers all of the 5 chords here. I don't see anything else. All right, that looks good to me. The only other thing that we could cover here, and this is very useful if you're into jazz. Jazz also has a special type of relationship that they like to point out, which is the relationship between 2 chords and 5 chords. The 2-5-1 is a very, very common pattern in jazz music, and so if you're into jazz, that's usually signified with an underscored bracket. So here we have a 2 to 5 to 1, again, very common pattern. And then here, a 2 to 5 to a false resolve to a 6 chord, but we still mark that 2 to 5 with this bracket. I don't see any other 2s to 5s in here, so that should mark everything. Excellent. All right, so that would be a full analysis of Take On Me and a much quicker breakdown, obviously, because we yeah, we found the right answers. We really dug deep on this one. Now, I want to cover one more example very quickly, and mostly because this is something that people forget when they get too deep into chord analysis. So this is Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake, and there is much more to this song, but the majority of this song is this chord progression right here. It's C, A minor, F, A minor. If you have the other sections of the song and you really know your chord theory, then you might be able to break down what scale this actually is in. But if you're just left with this and you wanted to use the trick that I just gave you, you don't really have the stuff to be able to use it, right? There's only two major chords. They're not next to each other alphabetically. And so it doesn't really fit into that camp. You don't have anything else to kind of quickly break this down. And if you do the full analysis here of each of our possible scales, the first scale you potentially have is C, which breaks down to C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished. Or the other possibility that you have is the F major scale, and the F major scale breaks down to F, G minor, A minor, B flat major, C major, D minor, and finally E diminished. And if you look at the chords that are in both of these scales, you'll notice that C, A minor, and F belong in both of them. So how do we determine which one it is? And this is one of those things where you might have to actually listen to the song in order to figure out what the tonal center is. Sometimes when in doubt, you have to use your ears, okay? Because at the end of the day, this is all about what sounds good, not necessarily about what looks good on paper. And so as great as theory is, the point of theory is to analyze the things that we commonly accept as sounding good. And that's something that you can never really forget. And so I'm a theory snob. I really like the theory because it helps me make sense of the stuff that I see and hear on a regular basis. But again, if it doesn't sound good, then what's the point of it? The music comes first and the theory comes after the fact. And I think there are some people who miss that point. And I think there's also a lot of people who don't want to learn music theory because they know people who don't get that point. And they feel like learning the theory destroys the magic for them. But, if you want to be good at your craft, you really have to understand what's in front of you. And so I think that learning a lot of this stuff is really helpful. I think learning, if you want to learn how to do poetry, you got to learn the language. And that's kind of the way I see it. So anyways, by the way, for those of you who are wondering, the answer to this question is this is a C major scale. Can't Stop the Feeling. It's in C major. If you listen to the song when they come into the chorus, it's quite obvious that this C is the downbeat that holds everything together. And if you're really unsure, you can also look at the melody of a song too to help fill in those gaps. So if you have that available, that's the other way to make sure. So anyways, that's going to end it here for our harmony series for now. I really appreciate you guys who have tuned in from the beginning and watched all the way to the end. I hope that everything that I've thrown in here was really helpful to you. And, this isn't everything, but this is a lot. And even just on this, you could easily spend like 6 months just getting comfortable. So I encourage you to repeat this information as much as you can, apply it to your instruments, try and break down songs, because the more you do it, the more comfortable you get and the more useful you will find it. And you will learn faster, and you will retain information quicker. So thank you again so much. Please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you guys real soon in the next upcoming videos. Later.